All right. Welcome to the Week 10 predictions episode of the Lewis and Laraib podcast. I'm your host, Lewis. Next to me is my co host, Laraib. Beautiful as always. Coming at you with our predictions for the week, going into every game. But first things first, Laraib, we have some big news to drop regarding the future of this podcast. Now, the views aren't exactly where we want them to be at the moment, but we're going to keep producing for y'all. And if anyone out there is going to help us with some editing, stuff like that, we could use all the help. We're starting to get a little bit more free time as this semester is starting to wane down. But the big news for the future of this podcast is that you see the basketball in our logo. We will be covering the 2021 NBA season in full whenever it starts December 22nd. We're going to have some episodes before the start of the season talking about free agency, talking about the draft, looking at teams, projecting teams. So if you're a big NBA fan and you still want to listen to this podcast when things are quiet during the NFL offseason, we will be here for you. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to stop posting NFL content, but we want to show you that we are diversified in our sports knowledge. Laraib?
Yeah, so we're going to have a little bit of both going on, but the draft is sometime next week, and along with NBA free agency coming up, a little bit after that. So stay tuned for some, more episodes of the Lewis and Laraib podcast.
Hey, no matter what country you're from, United States or Canada, you got two NBA fans here ready to give you whatever content you're from. If you're from Canada and you're watching this podcast, you deserve a lot, man. But first things first, that recaps that. Real quick note, we were filming this before the Thursday night football game. The line changed to Indianapolis by 1, but we are still sticking with our guns and picking the Tennessee Titans, as we discussed in our episode on Wednesday. So we're going to get to all the games this week. Laraib, you ready to jump right in?
Yeah, let's kick it off. Quick thing to note, there are more 3 o'clock games this week than there are 12 o'clock games. So shout out to the NFL for doing that. But I think that's what has to do with the Masters. Like you were telling me, that's why a lot of the CBS games will be on in the afternoon time. But nonetheless, good for us. But let's start off with first game of the 12 o'clock schedule. We have the 2-6 Houston Texans going to Cleveland to play the 5-3 Browns. The line of this game is -3. Lewis, why don't you start off on this one?
All right, Laraib. So the big thing for me in this game is – how can the Texans defense stop the rushing attack of the Browns? Now, the Browns offense, coming off a bye week, Baker Mayfield was pretty banged up in their last few games where they looked kind of shaky against the Las Vegas Raiders and the Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of what they were able to do offensively. But coming off a bye week, hopefully Baker Mayfield is healthier. Kareem Hunt has been leading this team in rushing following the absence of Nick Chubb, who they actually are optimistic to get later on in the season for a hopeful playoff push, which they are out of the playoff picture at the moment. But this Texans defense, which has not been good against the run whatsoever, they're allowed an average of 160 rushing yards per game, which is, not great in terms of where they stand in terms of the NFL rankings. So it needs to be an emphasis for the Cleveland Browns to establish the run in this game and get off to a fast start. Because recently Deshaun Watson has been playing out of his mind, throwing for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in the last 3 games. And if he keeps playing with this consistency, despite the lack of talent, defensively and some of the lack of talent they have in terms of skill positions, but Will Fuller has been playing very well recently. And this is an offense that the Cleveland Browns defense certainly has their hands full with. So I definitely see this game going into a shootout. But yeah, the Browns need to rely on their rushing attack as their ace in the sleeve to really put them ahead in this one.
Yeah, and talking about the rushing attack, they will be getting back Nick Chubb this week, so that's good for them. He had an injury against the Cowboys earlier this season, but he will be back for this game. So that's going to help out this Browns offense a whole bunch. And then we saw Baker Mayfield and Myles Garrett. They were on the injury report, but now they're off it. So it looks like their offense is coming together. All the key pieces are getting healthy. We saw OBJ injury a couple weeks ago, but it doesn't look like they'll miss him too much in this game, especially like you're saying against the Texans defense that really hasn't been good all season long. And the Texans 2 wins this season both came against the Jaguars, so I think the Browns, they might have their hands full a bit against this Texans offense with Will Fuller. He scored a touchdown in 6 straight games, the longest streak ever by a Houston Texan and the longest streak currently in the NFL. So, and good for my fantasy team as well. But no, I think the Browns can win this game. The scoring might be a little bit higher, but I just don't think this Texans defense will be able to stop the running attack or the passing attack from Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And the Cleveland Browns are better than the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like you mentioned, the only 2 wins for the Texans on the season have been over the Jaguars. So in that situation, I'm going to be picking the Cleveland Browns to win this game. It's going to be a lot closer than you might think of it. But just that talent defensively, Myles Garrett's going to be in the backfield 24/7. And if they can get those few stops on Deshaun Watson and really let their running game just drive them home, like you said, then the Cleveland Browns are going to win this one. Give me 31-27, Cleveland winning this game.
Yep, and give me the Browns 28 and Texans 24.
All right, so we both have a margin of 4 points in this game. Let's move on to our next game of the limited 12 o'clock slate. We have the Washington football team traveling to Detroit to face the 3-5 Lions. There is no line out for this game yet, so we're not going to factor it into our locks or upsets like it would really be either. I feel like the line would be very close. But obviously the line is there because of the questionable health of Matt Stafford and whether or not he is going to be playing in this game. We'll try to get an update for you as soon as we can on that. But in terms of how we're looking for this matchup, this Washington football front, defensive front, has been very impressive so far this season. Chase Young in that game against the Giants last week was getting triple teamed on multiple snaps. That is some high acclaim for a rookie making his first few starts in the NFL, already getting triple teamed in an NFL front. And, that's on the other defensive linemen of the Washington football team. If Chase Young is getting double, triple teamed, Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, Ryan Kerrigan, that's when you need to step up. That's when you need to win your one-on-ones and get to the quarterback because, the Lions' offensive line has been improved over the last few seasons, but it's still not good enough to block you. And if you can get Matt Stafford's face, cause some havoc, you can cause him a lot of problems. But my biggest issue in this game is, can Alex Smith lead an offense? Now, he had a full week of practice as the starter for this team following Kyle Allen's injury. So maybe this week of practice will be good for him. He'll be able to scheme up and get back into the groove of a starting quarterback in the NFL. But they just have not showed me much consistency so far this season. Terry McLaurin is an absolute stud, but he is the only thing on this offense that they're really getting major production from. So you need to get, a lot of your other studs going. Antonio Gibson, your running back, you need to get him going in this game. Logan Thomas, the dynamic tight end, get him going in this game. And then you just have to win up front. You have to beat up this Detroit Lions front seven with your top guys. I mean, that's what we need to see. This offensive line hasn't been bad this season, but it's kind of been middle of the pack. This is a game you need to step up and win it for the Washington football fans.
Yeah, and definitely Matt Stafford is questionable for this game along with Kenny Golladay, and that's why there really isn't a line out for this game. But that being said, this Detroit defense has not been able to stop the run at all the past couple of weeks. Last week we saw what Dalvin Cook did, another 200-plus yard or 200 scrimmage yards once again for him. And that defensive line couldn't do anything. And this week, even with Antonio Gibson battling a little bit of an injury, there's still J.D. McKissick, who's a nice receiving threat out of the backfield for the football team. So that'll be good for them. But for the Washington football team, for the Detroit Lions, it's going to come down to, can their defense try to slow down Alex Smith a little bit? Like you're saying, the Washington football team had a chance to win the game against the Giants last week, but he had 2, costly interceptions that easily could have been, not thrown. But this week, like you're saying, he had a little bit more practice. But can the Detroit Lions, stop Alex Smith, just keep the ball in front of them? Because, Terry McLaurin is the only big threat, like you were saying. And then, the run game with Antonio Gibson not fully healthy, this will look like a primetime game for the Washington football team to get another win.
And that's the way I'm going. After much deliberation, I'm thinking about it. I think Alex Smith, with a full week of practice, getting reps with the number ones, getting a bit of a more connection with those receivers, including Terry McLaurin, the stud second year out of Ohio State. I think they do just enough to win this game. I think that defensive front can bother Matt Stafford enough into some, costly turnovers, giving the football team some short fields to operate with so they can score in bunches. And I've been impressed with this team so far, despite their record. I like the direction they're going in. I can definitely tell there's a rebuild. Ron Rivera is doing a pretty good job there. And they get this win. Alex Smith's first win back since that gruesome injury. I'm going to go 23-16. Give me the football team in this one.
Yeah, and I also have to agree with you just because of how bleak this offense for the Lions is going to be without Kenny Golladay and Matt Stafford. Just give me the football team in this one. I think it's going to be low scoring, like you said. Give me the football team 20, Lions 17.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting game to watch for a lot of different angles. The future of those teams really depend. I mean, it's not a really big marquee game, but it's very interesting for like hardcore football fans because these two teams, they could play spoiler down the road, and we'll see the directions because, the Lions, they're very quick. They could, flip their entire team upside down pretty soon, but we'll get to that at a later episode. First things first, let's go on to our next game of the 12 o'clock slate. We have the 1-7 Jaguars traveling to Green Bay to face the Packers. Probably the most lopsided matchup of the weekend. Laraib, do you want to start us off with this one?
Yeah, so let's start off with this Green Bay Packers offense. Last week we saw them just decimate the 49ers. We saw Davante Adams have another signature game. And I think that's going to continue once again this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who has the worst pass defense, adjusted for DVOA. So, look for another big game out of Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams once again. But that defense is going to have their hands full with James Robinson, stud, undrafted rookie this year. But I just don't think Jake Luton will be able to keep up with Aaron Rodgers, and especially with Aaron Jones having another week to, rest up once again. I think him and Jamal Adams will go out and have another crazy game this week.
And I want to flip it over to the Jaguars. Jake Luton is going to get his second start as the quarterback, and he had a pretty impressive outing. He really showed off that cannon of an arm that was acclaimed after he came out of college, Oklahoma State. And, he played pretty well against the Texans. He had a few costly turnovers, but, in this game, I feel like against the Packers defense, which has not proven much this season to be adequate, and especially against the run, this is a game that James Robinson can really take advantage. This offensive line for the Jaguars has played very well this season, despite the record. And James Robinson has benefited from it as a receiving back and a running back. So look for him to have a monster game in this one. And the receivers, Laviska Shenault, Keelan Cole, and DJ Chark, of course. I expect them, especially after DJ Chark had a huge performance against the Texans last week. I feel like he's going to continue that. This game is going to be a high-scoring game, a lot of people's surprise, and the Jaguars might even put a scare into the Packers early, which for bettors out there, 13.5. I don't know if the Packers are going to cover that, to be quite honest with you, because the Jaguars offense does put some fear into me. Now, it's all up to the Packers. Packers, are you going to take this game by the balls and prove we are not going to let this team even get close to us? That's on you. But I have some faith in this quarterback, surprising people coming out. James Robinson, they have a really good matchup against that defense. This game is going to be higher scoring than some people think. I still have the Packers in this one. But I'm going to go with the score of 33-24, in which it gets pretty dangerous towards the fourth quarter, but then Aaron Rodgers does what Aaron Rodgers does and puts this game away at the end. But yeah, 33-24, give me the Packers in this matchup.
Yeah, I don't think this game is ever going to be close except for, maybe late in the fourth quarter. We saw what the Packers did last week against the 49ers. Complete blowout all the way up until, a couple garbage time touchdowns. I think that's what's going to happen again this week. Green Bay, we've seen them beat up on lesser teams, and they just, completely crap on them. So give me the Packers in this one, 34, Jaguars 20.
All right, so now we're going to move on to our next matchup. We have the 3-4-1 Eagles traveling to New York to face the Giants. This was a game that was played in Week 7 that we saw recently, in which the Giants really scared this Eagles team. Now, I've applauded the Giants all season, that they've really showed me that they're a team on the rise. They're improving, and I've liked what I've seen from them so far this season. And in this game, with a win, you're going to tie the Eagles with wins on the season. You're still going to be 2 losses back in the loss column. But you're definitely trending in the right direction. And after last week, another big win against a football team who I guess the Giants just seem to have their number this season. It's going to be a tough game for the Eagles if they want to continue to get that stranglehold on this NFC least division. Philadelphia is favored by 3.5 in this game. And what I need to see from this Giants offense coming off a tough loss of a tough win over the football team, continue that momentum. Daniel Jones did not have a turnover in last week's game. Can we get this as a trend, Pat Shurmur? Can we see this more and more often? I know it's not on the offensive game planner's fault, but you need to simplify things for Daniel Jones. Increase protection. Do what you can to protect him. And this season, if he still can't, overcome these obstacles, even when you're helping him more and more and more, then it's on him. But what I'm saying is, in this game, give me the Eagles, but it's going to be a very, very close game. Daniel Jones, if he doesn't turn the ball over in this game, then I might be tempted to pick them in this matchup. And Wayne Gallman has been playing very well this season recently in the absence of Saquon Barkley. We thought Devontae Freeman might be that guy in the running game. One thing to know, which is pretty interesting, Daniel Jones, the leading rusher for the New York Giants on the season, which I just think is funny. But if this defense, which was playing very well all season, can get some turnovers for Carson Wentz, a fumble, a key interception here and there, they have some talented, pieces. Logan Ryan and James Bradbury, one of the best cornerback duos in the entire NFL that no one really seems to talk about because of the record. And in this linebacking core, Blake Martinez, who we have both given praise this season for his just prowess, of tackling machine, really good run stopper. I might even pick the Giants in this one, but I want to see what you say first.
Yeah, and then we flip it on over to the Eagles, and they've been one of the most injury-riddled teams so far this season. But this week, guard Isaiah Samalo, he returned to practice. Lane Johnson returned to practice. Alshon Jeffrey returned to practice. Miles Sanders returned to practice. Malik Jackson returned to practice. So a lot of key pieces coming back for this Eagles team, which they did not have against the Giants last time they played. And, I'm a little bit concerned about Carson Wentz because, they beat the Cowboys 2 weeks ago. But in that game, Carson Wentz had a bad fumble and 2 really bad interceptions. So he's playing a little bit of tougher defense this week against the Giants, who have been sneakily good. But that being said, just because of how many key pieces the Eagles are getting back, I will pick them in this game 26-23, but it's going to be a tight divisional game on 12 o'clock.
You know what, Laraib? I think this is going to be one of my upsets of the week. Give me the Giants in this game, 20-19. It's going to be super close, but Daniel Jones will not turn the ball over this week. I will even put a cane sauce on it. I'm that confident. No turnovers from Danny Dimes this week. And in this game, he's going to run into the end zone and not get tripped up on the 10-yard line. Give me 20-19. Go Big Blue. Go New York Giants in this one.
Oh, man, that's a big upset by you. I mean, I can't believe you're picking Daniel Jones. I mean, I know he did not have a turnover last week, but
it's a trend, baby.
That's not nothing. You cannot bet on that. That is nothing you can bet on.
I'll take it.
All right, so let's move on to the last game of the 12 o'clock schedule. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 6-3, playing the Carolina Panthers, who are at 3-6. The Buccaneers are favored in this game by 5.5 points. But let's start off with that Tampa Bay offense. We saw last week on Sunday night, they just got obliterated by that Saints defensive line, right? We saw Trey Hendrickson, Cam Jordan, Onyemata. They were all in the backfield in Tom Brady's face the whole night long, and he really couldn't get anything going. But this week, it's going to be a little bit different against the Panthers team, who we saw earlier in the season. The Tampa Bay just ran all over them, and Mike Evans had 100 yards and a touchdown in this game. So I'm expecting a little bit more of the same. And, Tom Brady, I was talking to you about this before the episode started, but Tom Brady coming off a loss. The next week, he has never had less than 21 fantasy points So all my fantasy football players out there, go and grab Tom Brady for this game. He's gonna look to have a bounce back game, especially a Panthers defense to give up 300, passing yards to Patrick Mahomes and almost 2 touchdowns to Tyreek Hill last week. So expect those Tampa Bay Buccaneers to have a big game.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to note is guard Ali Marpet, who they really felt his loss in that loss to the New Orleans Saints. He was removed from concussion protocol, so it seems he will play this week, which is a huge addition to that offensive line that was absolutely battered against the New Orleans Saints. And this is a pretty favorable matchup against Carolina, at least defensively, because, one of the things that a lot of people say is Tom Brady, after a loss, is the greatest quarterback in the NFL. Well, you just said it, like 21 fantasy points after every loss he's had, at least 21 in every single game. So that's nothing to sneeze at, and I'm sure his record after losses is impeccable. I don't remember Tom Brady losing 2 games in a row in my life. But I will say, this Carolina defense does not get pressure with their four on a regular basis. Yetur Montos questionable in this game along with Jeremy Chin, their dynamic rookie safety. And Chris McCaffrey is believed to be out for this game with a shoulder injury. It's very unfortunate after he had his return last week against the Chiefs of 2 touchdowns. So this is a favorable matchup for the Buccaneers in my eyes. I think they come off the horrible loss. They put everything away. They get their offensive guard back. And Tom Brady's going to pick apart that Carolina defense, get their offense back going. And their defense, there were definitely some things that were exploited the last 2 weeks by the Giants and the Saints for this Tampa Bay defense that I do not think they're as good as we initially thought they were. But they're still very talented, and they just need to play, they need to scheme better defensively, quite honestly, because there were several things that they schemed against the Saints that just did not work. And against Teddy Bridgewater and Joe Brady, former New Orleans assistants, they saw that game tape, and they're going to try to replicate it. So you get a similar test against the Carolina Panthers this week, who are going to try to replicate a lot of the things the Saints did against you. Can you stop it this time? And if you can, maybe you can turn a new leaf, go to 7-3, and look like a playoff team we initially thought you were. So I'm going to say Buccaneers win this one, and they're going to win this one big. I'm going to go 31-17.
Yeah, quick thing to note about the Panthers, they've lost 4 straight games, but all 4 of those games have been 1 score. And, even this week, even with Christian McCaffrey out, I still think they're going to be able to keep it pretty close just because you were talking about Joe Brady, former Saints assistant coach. So they might be able to drive just a little bit on this Buccaneers defense. So give me the Buccaneers in this one at 28, Carolina 24.
All right, that will conclude the 12 o'clock slate. Hoorah, hooray. Now we get to go to the afternoon game starting at 3:05 with the Broncos traveling to Las Vegas to play the Las Vegas Raiders. Las Vegas is favored by 4.5 points in this matchup. Here's the big thing for me. I want to see consistency with this Las Vegas offense. And I feel like we're starting to go in the right direction. But the big problems that we've had with the John Gruden Raiders the past few years is the lack of consistency week to week with this offense. And, this year we're starting to see a little bit of it. Derek Carr is playing well, not turning the ball over, 16 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. You'll definitely take that as a Las Vegas Raiders fans. Maybe, you're not too happy with his with how selective he is and how cautious he is at times and how many times he just takes a sack when he doesn't need to. But this offensive line has been playing very well, and I expect the Raiders to get up big in this game. With their rushing attack, the Broncos have just been continuing to take hits and hits and hits defensively. And with that loss against the Falcons, their confidence is probably shooken up a bit. But give me the Raiders to make a real statement to prove they're a playoff team. You need to beat your divisional rival, the Broncos, at home and really put a stronghold into that AFC playoff picture.
Yeah, and we talk about this Denver defense. I know everyone, we know this Denver defense is fast, but in the last 3 weeks, they've given up 30-plus points in every single game. And this week, they're going to have their hands full once again with Derek Carr. I kind of crapped on him earlier on in the season saying he doesn't have the deep ball or anything like that. This offense has become pretty dynamic in the past couple of weeks, and we've seen them, hit some deep balls to Henry Ruggs, and Zay Jones
Aguilar.
and Aguilar. Yeah, and then in the running attack, ever since week 1, Josh Jacobs has slowed down a little bit, but he's still a solid running back. And then Drew Lock, he's been struggling, a lot. He caught fire against the Chargers late in the fourth quarter of that game to win them, and he caught fire once again late against the Falcons. But he hasn't been able to, play good throughout all 4 quarters and show that, he's anything good. But against the Raiders, pass defense that's ranked 26th in DVOA. He might be able to get going with Jerry Jeudy. We saw him have a breakout game last week. But I'm still going to take the Raiders in this game just because, like you're saying, this is a big game for them. You can go to 6-3. I don't remember the last time a Raiders team was 6-3 in my entire life. And, the playoff race is getting tight for the bottom of the AFC. A lot of teams are 5-3. And if you can beat your divisional opponent and go 6-3, that's going to be key for this Raiders team. So that being said, give me the Raiders 30, Broncos 20.
Yeah, the Raiders definitely need to take advantage of their schedule. They have the Chiefs coming up soon. But besides that, you have the 5-3 Colts playing tonight. You have the 5-3 Dolphins, the 5-3 Browns, all fighting for those last 2 playoff spots in the AFC. So it's going to be a battle to see who can get those. And this is a team to definitely watch out for. One interesting stat that you noted that I want to bring up about Drew Lock. You talked about his fourth quarter performances. This season, he has thrown 5 touchdowns to 0 interceptions in the fourth quarter alone. The rest of the 3 quarters when he's playing, 1 touchdown to 6 interceptions. You need to find some consistency, Drew Lock. It can't just be hero time in the fourth quarter. You need to make your impact, known early in the game if you want to stay in these games. But also Las Vegas, you need to make sure this thing's out of hand. And you cannot keep, let your foot off the neck of these Denver Broncos or they will come back. They have a certain swagger to them with him as quarterback. And you need to make sure you're not, your division rival Los Angeles Chargers. And you need to win this thing when it matters like you did last week. So give me the Raiders in this game. I'm going to go 28-17 in this matchup.
All right, let's move on to another game of the 3 o'clock schedule. We have the 2-6 Chargers playing against the 5-3 Dolphins, and at the Hard Rock Stadium, the Dolphins in this game -2. And let's talk about it. The elephant in the room, the 2 rookie quarterbacks, Justin Herbert and Tua Tagovailoa, will be going head to head in this game. But I think the key part in this game is going to be the Dolphins defense. And the Chargers offense is very pass oriented, especially with Austin Eckler out. I think, Justin Herbert, he always has to hit the deep ball, and he's going to have his hands full against against the Dolphins defense that is top 10 in pass DVOA this season. And I think that's going to be the big difference in this game. A defense we saw, however many defensive touchdowns they've had in the past couple weeks has been astounding. And I think they can continue again, especially this week. Tua Tagovailoa, he didn't have a turnover last week against the Cardinals defense, and I don't think he's going to struggle too much against the Chargers team Chargers defense that has been playing too well.
What gives me some worry in this matchup is the Dolphins' running game, which has not been that great. With Myles Gaskin out, they've really struggled to find that new running back. They brought in Salvan Armani, I think his name was, or Salvan Ahmed, as a running back who had a few splash plays here and there. They still have Jordan Howard as their running back as well. But without Myles Gaskin, this offense, it really seems like you're throwing Tua into the fire. Thankfully, though, for Tua, Melvin Ingram is going to be out for this game like he's been the past few weeks. And Joey Bosa, he's questionable, but he's been really banged up the past few weeks as well. So they need to get those guys back on track in this game if you're going to, disrupt the rookie quarterback. And I'm going to throw it back to the other side. Like you said, this Dolphins defense has been playing very well in terms of just getting turnovers and scoring turnovers. They know how to make the most out of turnovers in terms of putting their team in the best position to win. And Justin Herbert, as good as he's been all season, he needs to make sure there's no mistakes in this game because the Dolphins will take advantage of it and potentially return anything for 6 points. So this is going to be an astounding matchup. Number 5 overall pick, Tua Tagovailoa, number 6 overall pick, Justin Herbert. Maybe a big win in this game will vault Tua up into that Rookie of the Year conversation that we've been having, even though we have our favorites. Maybe Tua starts to make his name. Maybe he joined a little too late, so he's going to be disqualified. But it's going to be a very, very fun game. Future of the NFL on the line. We talked about the last podcast, talking about the futures of teams going forward. These are definitely two teams we need to keep an eye on for the next few years. But in this game, I'm going to give the edge to the Miami Dolphins, like we talked about with the Raiders, in terms of just you're in a position to make the playoffs and you have talent on your team. You cannot lose these games to the 2-6 Chargers, who definitely are better than their record indicates, but there's a reason why they are 2-6, because they cannot either close out games or they're unable to come back into games. So give me the Dolphins in this matchup. I'm going to go 31-30, super close game. Both quarterbacks are going to shine, but this Dolphins defense is going to get it done when it matters the most.
Yeah, quick thing to note, Christian Wilkins and Kyle Van Noy have been placed on the COVID-19 list, so they will miss this game. But I still think that Dolphins defense will be the key playmakers and game changers for this game. So give me the Dolphins. I'm going to go a little bit lower scoring than you. Give me the Dolphins, 27, Chargers, 23.
That's a big blow. I didn't know about that. Christian Wilkins has been playing fantastic this season, along with the veteran leadership of Kyle Van Noy. So it's not going to be pick changing, but something to definitely keep note of, like you said. But now we're going to move on to the next game at the 3 o'clock slate. We have the Buffalo Bills traveling to Arizona to face the Arizona Cardinals. Another matchup of two talented young quarterbacks in our league at the moment. We have Josh Allen against Kyler Murray, two dynamic offenses, two of the highest scoring offenses. Wow, this game is going to be really fun to watch. The biggest thing for me is which defense can step up first. Like we've seen multiple shootouts between these two teams against several other high-powered offenses, and more times than not, their offense gets the advantage. So what's it going to be? Is it going to be the Bills' playmakers, Tre'Davious White, getting that one stop when you needed to? We saw what the corners of Miami were able to do to DeAndre Hopkins last week and really kind of eliminate him to an extent. You can't take DeAndre Hopkins out of the game, but 0 targets in the first half for DeAndre Hopkins. That was Xavier Howard and Byron Jones manning him up. So in this game, you need Tre'Davious White. You travel with DeAndre Hopkins all game, no matter what. And the rest of them, you cannot let those big plays to Christian Kirk down the field and get Kyler Murray out of the pot. It's going to happen. You're just going to have to stop the bleeding whenever it starts. Bend, don't break. This Cardinals team, as good as it's been scoring and yards gained, it hasn't been the most efficient red zone team. So I'm not saying let them get into the red zone and score. Obviously not. But bend, don't break. You can let up the 10 to 12-yard play. Don't let up the 50-yard bomb down the field to Kyler Murray, or this offense is going to be hell to deal with in terms of letting them get into the game. So for the Bills, just play your game. This Cardinals defense is not great in the secondary. Get those receivers out in space. Let them do work. And, Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, they need to have a big game in this one to keep that Kyler Murray-led offense off the field. But, yeah, those are the big matchups we need to look for in this game.
Yeah, and then other side of the ball, the Bills, I was hot on them to start the season, and they cooled off a little bit. But now, they've won 3 games in a row against, the Jets, Patriots, and Seahawks. The Seahawks game was a huge win for them, to be honest. Now they have a strong lead on their division with, and they're going to have to win this game to keep that lead against the Dolphins team that's slowly climbing. But it's all going to be on Josh Allen. We saw him hit the deep ball over and over again last week. But this defense is a lot better than Seattle's defense, and they're not going to be, blitzing on 3rd and 16 and giving you open checkdowns to the wide receiver, And, and then for the Cardinals defense, we saw what rookie Tua Tagovailoa did last week. He had some nice flashy plays against his defense when it shouldn't have. But, I think I can trust Josh Allen a lot more in this game than I can Kyler Murray, because we saw that Bills defense, they were all over Russ Wilson last week, and, maybe they can do it once again this week. I know Kyler Murray is a lot more quick and a lot more agile, but if they can contain him in the pocket, force him to make some throws against, Jordan Poyer and Tre'Davious White, maybe he can have some costly turnovers that it just might give the Bills the edge in this game.
Yeah, despite Arizona being favored by 2.5, I'm going to go with Buffalo in this game. I just think they proved a lot last week. I know they're traveling to the West Coast Whenever you have an East Coast team traveling to the West Coast, it's usually not a good plan. But, this being a 3 o'clock game, it's going to be very interesting to watch to see how this dynamic of these two offenses are going back and forth, back and forth. It's going to be a high-scoring game. But I think this Bills defense, which we just saw, was very impressive against Seattle, shows up again to do just enough to slow down Kyler Murray in this high-octane Cardinals offense, and they will get the win in a high-scoring affair. Give me 37-31. Buffalo Bills get it done and move to 8-2.
We always talk about teams traveling from the East Coast to the West Coast. And for that reason, I think I will pick the Cardinals in this game. I know we talked about the Bills defense, which stepped up mightily last week, but I think Kyler Murray, he just gives his team a slight edge with his running ability. And, look for DeAndre Hopkins having a nice bounce-back game this week. I know Travis White is one of the better cornerbacks in the league, but, maybe being shut down last week gives D-Hop a little bit extra motivation in this one. And this is a big game for both these teams, especially for Arizona, because if they win this week and Seattle loses this week, then the Cardinals will be the number one team in the NFC West. So that being said, give me the Cardinals. I'm going to go high scoring just like you, but give me the Cardinals 30, Bills 27.
Yeah, one quick note. This game has a lot of playoff implications because, like you said, the Cardinals, they could take control of the NFC West, but on the same note, they could fall out of the playoffs if the Rams win and, Tampa gets another win and Chicago wins. And this team is looking at 6-4, and they have a worse divisional record than the Chicago Bears do. So that's definitely going to prove to be difficult in this game. And for both teams, because if, Buffalo loses, they're only going to be a game above Miami in the win column if Miami wins. Woo! This is going to be an exciting game with a lot of playoff implications on the line for a lot of teams. So that's definitely going to be one of our must-watches of the week, probably marquee matchup of the week, but it is not the primetime game, unfortunately. Let's move on now. We have the Joey Burrow-led Bengals traveling to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. There is no line on this game currently due to the questionable health of Ben Roethlisberger after he was injured, and that win over Dallas. We can only assume it's at least maybe like 5.5, 6.5 if Ben Roethlisberger is playing. So, we were talking about this earlier, but this Pittsburgh Steelers team was roughed up in that win against the Steelers. They had a lot of guys on the injury list, and I'll let you get on to the individual specifically because I don't have the list in front of me at the moment. But I'll focus on the Bengals in this matchup coming off a bye. This was historically the last decade a really big rivalry between these two teams because, if the Ravens weren't in it, this were the two teams gunning for the division title. And it's going to be a closer game than people think. The Steelers play down to their competition under Mike Tomlin. That's just the situation. Now, they usually win these games, but they make it way closer than it needs to be. I understand they're 8-0, and I'm going to pick them to win this game, but do not count out Joe Burrow. And no matter what, he has proven time and time again, even in losses, he will make it close, and you're going to have to fight, scratch, and claw for every inch against this man. My rookie of the year. And with those offensive weapons around him, Joe Mixon's questionable, but he will play in this game along with Tyler Boyd and, what's his name? T. Higgins, who has really emerged recently as Joe Burrow is one of his favorite targets. So look for that matchup against these the Steelers defense, which has been, fantastic all season and leading the league in sacks, which is going to give me I pray for Joe Burrow in this game. I feel like he might get sacked 5+ times if they can't get the ball out quicker, scheme something, double protect with tight ends in this game. And even that might not be enough to stop the Stephon Tuitt, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, and those, just ferocious linebackers from getting downfield and getting to Joe Burrow. So just because of that, because of the threat of that Steelers defensive line, I'm going to give the edge to the Steelers in this particular matchup, and I'll let you hit on the Steelers' offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, well, a quick thing to note about the COVID situation for both teams. For the Bengals, Mackenzie Alexander, Trey Waynes, and Marcus Hunt are on the COVID list, but they might be questionable for this game. And then for the Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, Vance McDonald, and Vince Williams, just a few of the players who potentially have COVID-19, and that's why, like you said, there's no line for this game. But let's talk about that Steelers offense. Last week they went down big against the Cowboys defense when no one expected them to, but they were to claw back in that game and they were able to win it, surprising fashion towards the end. But when it really shouldn't have been that close, it was. And like you're saying, they played down to this competition. And they might just do it again this week, but I just have to take Ben Roethlisberger in this one just because of how bad the Bengals defense has been. And then that defensive line, like you were saying, for the Steelers, are just going to have a field day, especially with offensive lineman Jonah Williams, Bobby Hart, and Trey Hopkins all dealing with injury for the Bengals. And then Joe Mixon, like you're saying, he's banged up a little bit. So that all being said, I have to take the Steelers in this one. It might be a little bit closer than expected, but I can just trust that Steelers defense to always – every single week come out to play no matter who they're going up against and give the Steelers team the edge. And that's why I'll take the Steelers in this one. Even with Mason Rudolph, if they play this game, I'll still have to take them. Give me the Steelers 24, Bengals 20.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough if Mason Rudolph is the starting quarterback because he is not good whatsoever. In that series he had against the Cowboys, he is the worst quarterback in the NFL, undoubtedly. So if that is the case, I'm going to have the Bengals winning. But I believe Ben Roethlisberger will be available for this game. So I agree with you. I have the Steelers in this game. And I'm not going to, amend my pick if it's Mason Rudolph at starting quarterback. Regardless, I'm going to keep it going with the Steelers. But it's going to be a hell of a game. Low scoring just because of that defensive line on the Steelers. But give me 24-23. Steelers eke it out to remain the last undefeated team in the NFL.
All right, so let's move on to the second to last 3 o'clock game. We have the Seattle Seahawks at 6-2 playing the 5-3 Rams at the new SoFi Stadium. The Rams coming off a bye week. Meanwhile, the Seahawks have a disappointing loss against the Bills. But let's start off with the Seattle Seahawks, in the offense. We know what they are with Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett, but they couldn't get anything going early in that game against the Bills. We saw a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson. And like you were saying earlier on, look, maybe the pressure is getting him just a little bit. We saw on the 4th and 2, he had a costly interception in the end zone. In the end zone when he could have, just thrown it away. I think he has too much on his back right now, especially, trying to do everything all at once for this team. But this week against a Rams defense, which we saw really struggle to contain Tua early in that game against, 2 weeks ago against the Dolphins. They're going to have their hands full. And this is a divisional game. And look for Russ Wilson to have another comeback performance in this one. We saw what he did after the loss against the Cardinals to the 49ers, and maybe he can do it again this week against the Rams team. We know about Aaron Donald. We know about Jalen Ramsey. But everyone else on that defense has been a little bit unproven. And then for the Seattle defense, Shaquille Griffin and Quentin Dunbar are expected to miss this game, I believe, for the Seahawks. But for Jared Goff, he's not one of the better quarterbacks in the league, probably bottom half. And I think he's going to struggle in this game, especially with a lot of pressure in his face.
Yeah, I liked what I saw from that. Even though they gave up 44 points, there were flashes of greatness from the Seattle defense, as weird as that is to say in 2020. But I'll say they got pressure when they needed to. And if they can make Jared Goff uncomfortable in this matchup, it's going to be huge for them. But if they can't, it's going to be a long day for this Seattle Seahawks defense. They're missing Quentin Dunbar. And who was the other one? Shaquille Griffin. Is he going to play in this matchup? He is questionable.
Yeah, they're both questionable.
So regarding the health of those two, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Josh Reynolds, Tyler Higbee are going to have a field day on this secondary. Now, if Sean McVay, the boy genius, we all exalted him, can you come out and scheme against this poor Seahawks defense? Can you try? Can you get Cooper Kupp matched up onto Jamal Adams in the slot and absolutely work Jamal Adams? Because, I think that would be a favorable matchup for you in this game. But Sean McVay, I need to see what everyone was all the rage about in 2018 and 2017. Boy genius coming in. Now it's Kyle Shanahan. You've lost all your luster. You're getting out-coached, outplayed certain weeks, and the offense isn't looking great. Now, you can say the offensive line has not been great, no, it has not this season and last season. But I need to see more from this offense. And the other side of the ball, Russell Wilson is going to have a bounce-back game, I believe. This is the first of two matchups. These games are always competitive between the Seahawks and the Rams, and it seems like every single year, at least recently, the home team is the one that loses, ironically, in these matchups. So this game being at Los Angeles, I'm going to give the edge to the Seahawks, despite the Rams being questionably favored in this game, but it's going to be very close to the end.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to both these quarterbacks, how well they can they perform against their respective defenses. I trust Russell Wilson a lot more going against the Rams defense, which I know has been pretty good. But for Jared Goff, I know he's going to have a lot of pressure in his face. And we saw, when they played the Bears, they won that game. But, you see Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn, along with some others in his face all night. And he just gets flustered and he makes some really bad throws. I know Seahawks has some question marks on the back end, especially with, the two cornerbacks are questionable for the game and Jamal Adams. But I think he can get healed up just a little bit in this week. And I'll just have to take the edge with Seattle just because of Russell Wilson. So give me the Seahawks in this one. It's going to be a high-scoring affair, but give me Seattle 30, Rams 27.
In this matchup, it's going to come down to whichever offensive line can play better. That's it. If the Rams' offensive line can block those blitzes and safety blitzes, Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams coming off trying to get pressure, then there's no chance they stop the Rams. But if Russell Wilson can get protection from his offensive line and go at this, and don't let Aaron Donald become a part of this game, don't let Leonard Floyd come off the edge and disrupt, then you can have the advantage in this game. And I think the Seahawks offensive line has proven a lot to me this season. Now, Russell Wilson needs to clean it up. No excuses. Come into this game, prove you're still the division champion, and really, stake your foothold in the NFC West with this win and move on for the rest of your season. But I like the Seahawks in this matchup. I'm going to go high scoring as well. I'm going to go 30-27 in this matchup.
All right,
but we are going to
scores on that one.
What was your score?
30-27, Seattle.
All right. Well, great minds think alike. Let's move on to our I'm out of joint. I did the Bengals Steelers game before.
Yeah.
But we're on the same page now. We're last game of the 3 o'clock slate. We have the San Francisco 49ers traveling to New Orleans to face the New Orleans Saints. Saints are favored by 9.5 points following that complete domination over their division rival in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Big thing to note in this game is the San Francisco 49ers recently traded linebacker Quan Alexander to the New Orleans Saints, which is just like in this game particularly, he'll be making his debut. And he knows this defense. This is one of those trades where Quan Alexander is a good player, don't get me wrong. But you make this type of trade because they know the defense. They know what they want to do. And they've been practicing with this defense. They've been part of the unit. Now, it's been battered the entire season. No Richard Sherman, even though there was speculation whether or not he might come back this week. He will not be back. In a trade like this, Quan Alexander, he's going to give you the secret to the trade. He's going to give you all you need to know for this defense. And I think the Saints defense has another impressive game. There was speculation that Raheem Mostert might come back this week, but it was, Kyle Shanahan came back and said he will not. He will be coming back next week against the Rams. So in this matchup, you're going to have running back by committee with Jerick McKinnon and Tevin Coleman, along with JaMychal Hasty, who have not, really did not do much against the Green Bay Packers on that Thursday night. But you got to wonder what the Saints, are they coming off an emotional high after that big win? Can they turn it around quickly? Get it back to the 49ers, who embarrassed you last year. I know it was a close game, but that was the game for the conference that you lost. You need to channel that energy, come back into this one, and take advantage of the San Francisco 49ers, who are missing so many people. This injury report is longer than some of the essays I've had to write in college so far. So Give me the Saints in this particular matchup, but I want to hear what you say first before I give a final score.
Yeah, I mean, there really isn't that much to say. I mean, you want to talk about some of those players out for the 49ers: Jimmy Garoppolo, George Kittle, Nick Bosa, Richard Sherman, Raheem Mostert, Weston Richburg, Solomon Thomas, Jaquiski Tart, D Ford, Kawan Williams. That's just a few of them, right? So, I mean, like you're saying, this is not the San Francisco 29ers. This is just the San Francisco 19ers. I mean, a lot of people out. And, this Saints team has won 5 straight games. And, when the schedule came out earlier for this season, I guarantee you Sean Payton definitely circled this game on his calendar, a revenge game against the 49ers. And even if they're missing all these key players, look for the Saints team to come out, bang in, especially with Michael Thomas, another week to heal up once again, and Alvin Kamara. And like you're saying, Drew Brees has built rapport with all these wide receivers now on the Saints team, and now you can trust every single one of them. So look for the Saints to have another massive victory in this one. Give me the Saints 34, 49ers 16.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, there's not much to this 49ers team that we can really give an advantage to in this matchup. If I were to say, this is the type of game that Marshawn Lattimore is going to he might sleepwalk a bit, and they might get a few big plays. Ricky James, the wide receiver, had a pretty big game against the Green Bay Packers, granted most of it in garbage time, but you need to be focused in this matchup. Do not let these nobodies beat you. I mean, they're not nobodies. Obviously, they're talented. They're on the NFL roster. But this is a practice squad preseason lineup for the 49ers going up against what I think is the best team in the NFC, and they need to prove it in this matchup. Give me 37-13 in this game. Another big win for the Saints, moving on to 7-2 lead of the NFC South. But now we are going to move on to our Sunday night football matchup against – you have the Baltimore Ravens traveling to New England, face the Patriots. Baltimore favored by 7 in this game. New England coming off a short week in which they barely eked out a win against the hapless New York Jets. There's not much optimism for me. Now, Marlon Humphrey, do you know whether or not he will be reactivated for this game off the COVID list?
I'm not sure. I will look that up for you.
Okay, so there has been
he has been activated from the COVID-19 list.
Okay, so he will be back. There had been a little COVID scare from the Baltimore Ravens this season, and especially recently over the past few weeks. But they are so much more talented than this Patriots team. If the Patriots score in this game, it'll have to be off a trick play, a screen pass. They'll have to pull out every trick in the book if they want to get to 10 points, because this Ravens defense has been impressive. And equally not impressive is this Patriots offense, which it seems like it is the hardest thing in the world for them to get 20 yards. I mean, against the New York Jets, it's not the hardest thing. But against a well-disciplined, well-tackling team who is going to not only, tackle you, they're going to hit you hard. They're going to punch the ball out if they can and scoop it up and return it. Marlon Humphrey, we saw Chuck Clark, Yannick Ngakoue, who's been a huge addition so far for the Baltimore Ravens. This defensive matchup is very difficult for the Patriots, and I don't see them getting over it.
Yeah, definitely. And, the Patriots, we know who they've been for the past couple seasons, and teams still look at them as one of the better matchups every single year. There's no Tom Brady, and they haven't been playing well this season, but it's still the New England Patriots, right? It's still Bill Belichick, and every single team wants to go out whenever they play the Patriots and have their best game of the year, right? I mean, it's the New England Patriots, for crying out loud. We've seen 6 Super Bowl rings in the past, 2 decades, and every team wants to show it against them. And this is going to be, once again, the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson, he's been struggling. This could be his chance to have a breakout game this week. We saw what Joe Flacco did with Jamison Crowder and rookie Denzel Mims last week, along with Rashad Perriman. So look for a bounce-back game for Mark Andrews, who's been struggling. The Ravens have the worst pass offense in the league, I believe. But this could be a matchup game for them, especially with Stephon Gilmore and a lot of those Patriots defensive key players that are questionable for this game.
Yeah, I need Marquise Brown, not only for personal reasons, but as a Ravens fan in this situation, you need him to have a big game in this one. Really just to expand your threats. This passing offense needs to have a better impact because You can't win the big games with the worst passing offense in the NFL in 2020. It's not going to work like that. This is not, the 2008 Pittsburgh Steelers who just, grounded and pounded, or this is not the 2002 Buccaneers with Warwick Dunn, just giving him the ball and letting him work. You need to have a competent passing attack if you're down in games. Now, this is a game they're not going to be down in, so they're not going to have to necessarily worry about it as much, but you still need to have an emphasis getting it right in this type of game. You can't wait until it's the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs and all of a sudden you have to start pass crazy. You need Lamar in the pocket. Get Mark Andrews involved. Get Marquise Brown involved. Willie Snead. Maybe even some Des Bryant, because what I think they're missing is that one big target on the outside. They don't really have that. They have a bunch of speedsters, finesse guys. They need that big target, that rangy target, 50-50 ball guy to really help, add another element to this offense. Maybe Des Bryant can be that guy. Who knows? We haven't seen him in 3 years. I doubt it, but he still has that experience. So give me the Baltimore Ravens in this game to really make a statement on Sunday night. I'm going to go 31-16.
Yep, I'll also take the Ravens in this game. Give me the Ravens 27-13.
All right, seems like we agree on that end. And another Monday night game. This one actually might be a little interesting. Two teams that are fighting for somewhat playoff contention. And this can be a battle of two fronts. We have the 3-5 Minnesota Vikings traveling on the road to face the Chicago Bears on a Monday night. 46 degrees. That's football weather in Chicago, baby. In the Windy City, baby. Minnesota favored by 2.5 points in this one. It's going to be Dalvin Cook against the Chicago Bears defensive front. Roquan Smith and Danny Trevathan, linebackers, speedy all over the field, who really haven't played well against top running backs this season, only allowing 117 rushing yards per game, which is one of the highest clips in the NFL. So in this particular matchup, it's going to be, what's going to move first? Is it going to be Dalvin Cook, or is it going to be this Bears defense with Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks on the defensive line, like I mentioned, the running back or the linebackers, excuse me. So then it comes down, if you can't get that running game going, can you get the passing game going? And I think there is they have the matchups. Adam Thielen has been playing well this season. Star rookie Justin Jefferson out of LSU also been playing very well. Get those guys involved. Get the play action game going. I know you want to establish the run, and of course, who wouldn't want to establish the run against, when you have Dalvin Cook on your team? But if you can get those 5-6 yard pops, and then the defense is on their heels, they don't know what to do, get Irv Smith, Kyle Rudolph down the seams, and then get those crossing routes, outside routes for the Justin Jeffersons and Adam Thielens of the world to really work that defense. You don't need many personnel groups. You're not the New Orleans Saints. You have your horses, and you know what you want to do, so go out. I need to see a better game plan from Pat who's their offensive coordinator right now? Oh, it's going to kill me. Is it Brian Daboll?
For who? The Bears?
The Vikings.
Oh, the Vikings?
Oh, it's going to kill me. It's Gary Kubiak.
Yeah, Gary Kubiak. He used to play for the Broncos.
Yeah.
He used to be head coach of the Broncos.
And his big thing is establishing the run. So you need to make sure you scheme up against the Chicago Bears defense, which has been very formidable this season. Don't get it twisted. I know they haven't played well the last few games, but this defense is not the result. I'll let you hit on the other side of the ball, which is holding them back. But, this is definitely the matchup of the night, this defense against that offense. Who will break first? My opinion, I like the Vikings.
Let me list off some numbers for you real quick, okay? Bears offense, 31st in yards per play, 32nd in rush yards per game, 29th in rush yards per play, 27th in first downs per game, 31st on third down, and 30th in the red zone, and 28th in points per game. This Bears offense is looking like it could be the worst of all time. I mean, even if they're going against a bad defense in this Vikings have been getting their groove for the past couple of weeks, and I think it's all going to come down to, can Nick Foles get anything going? And I think not. And on the other side, you have Dalvin Cook. Even if the Vikings only put up, 17 points, I don't see Nick Foles doing anything, close to that. So give me the Vikings in this one. I think it's going to be a tight game a little bit, not really, just because of how Nick Foles has been playing with that, sorry offense, sorry offensive line, bad play calling. So give me the Vikings 24, Bears. No, give me the Vikings 21, Bears 13.
So here's what scares me, Laraib. I know we like to focus on the X's and O's, and we try to stay away from the flashy storyline and stuff like that. We really just go into the matchups and see who has the advantage in every specific one. But you have the two quarterbacks on a Monday night. You have Kirk Cousins on a Monday night. And he still battles those demons in prime time, no matter what. Now, you can get him in a 3 o'clock slate. Ooh, he's good.
It's not the Kirk Cousins show anymore. It's not the Kirk Cousins show anymore.
Give Nick Foles a short field. Give any quarterback a short field. They're going to put up points. Cairo Santos is not double doink. I already forgot his name. He's Cody Parkey. He's not Cody Parkey. He'll hit those. And if this is a battle of field goals, which we saw against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, in which the Chicago Bears won earlier in the season, then they can definitely win this game. And Kirk Cousins, if he turns the ball over and they get sloppy, give me the Chicago Bears, Windy City, Soldier Field. They're going to stuff Dalvin Cook into a locker, and they're going to make Minnesota go back up north. And the Bears are going to advance to 6-4, and they might rejoin that playoff group.
No.
You
are completely wrong here. This is not the Kirk Cousins show anymore. This is not the
Nick Foles gets it done.
This is not the Kirk Cousins show anymore. This is the Dalvin Cook Food Network TV show that we're watching now. All right, he is going to cook all over this Bears defense. Even if he goes for 70 yards, it'll be way better than what David Montgomery and Nick Foles will be able to muster up. We talk about Kirk Cousins in prime time. Well, it's not him anymore. And Nick Foles, it's Nick Foles, Matt Nagy. I talked about him already on this podcast. Terrible play caller. He's always he's a definition of trying to do too much and trying to do nothing at the same time. So give me the Vikings in this one, like I already said.
Look out for Darnell Mooney in this game. He's going to put some people on notice. Just watch. Give me the Bears. And you know what? That will conclude the picks for this week. Before we let you go, I want to let you know we're going to plug our social medias in the comments or in the description down below. So make sure you go check those out and give us a follow. Also, like we said in the beginning, NBA content will be coming your way from us. Trust me, we have some strong takes, and we love us some basketball. We will watch every game we can during this crazy 2021 NBA season as we see fit. COVID, a lot of things. You're going to need to know a lot of information. We will have that information for you. And, the drill. No one's done it yet. Not even, who's watched the podcast. I'm looking at you, Nathan. In this game, send me Nick Foles, just a picture of him. No context needed. And you'll get a nice little present.
Send me a picture of Dalvin Cook photoshopped onto a Food Network background setting, and I will send you $100 on Venmo. But that will conclude this episode of the Lewis and Rob podcast. Lewis, any closing remarks?
Nope, that'll do it for us. We are going to go watch some Thursday Night Football and go play some Cold War. That just came out. So that'll be it for this episode. We thank you so much, and you have a great night
or
day.